There you go, I'm filming.
Okay. Hello everybody!
Woo!
Coming today! Yay! We're having this event because internationally we try to put up events in different capitals in Europe to make some pressure on Sweden, on the Swedish authorities, because Laetitia, a Russian woman, is going to be deported to Russia, and Laetitia is a transgender woman. For that reason, she fears to go back to Russia and she cannot live there. The idea for this event is that we take some pictures to put up internet and to send to Laetitia to show our solidarity with her. Yes. And Laetitia has sent us a text about herself, and I would like to read it to you before we take the photos. Laetitia says, anatomically, psychologically, socially, I am
Honey, you are on my way.
And nothing else. Because that I'm female, I cannot
You are on my way.
in daily life.
Always.
All my ID is for someone with male gender designation and masculine name and surname. While I look and behave, I am perceived in society as female. This creates a huge catch-22 that excludes me from daily life absolutely. Legally, I don't exist. I tried to do my very best to get legal identity recognized in Russia, but the only law about gender recognition doesn't work in practice. Everything failed. Because of who I am, I was treated less than human, beaten up, urinated on in a Russian police station. I fear that violence will continue upon my return to Russia. Also, new Russian legislation hinders my activism towards normalization of gender non-conforming people to the point that I will face huge fines while being completely excluded from daily life and having no practical possibility to get out of this quicksand. In summary, it's a simple choice. Either suicide, that legally will be perceived as self-inflicted, or to be killed by fundamentalists. I applied for asylum in Stockholm in December 2010. Migrationsverket rejected me in April 2011, saying that I'm a gay male who can return and live in Russia. Migration court in Malmö in February turned down the appeal, saying that I didn't extinguish all possibility to get protection in Russia, when there are no practical possibilities. More about, in a quote from Russian LGBT network, she have sent us also about the legislation in Russia. Supreme Court didn't accept appeal at all. On May 8th in 2012, I had to be deported. For a year, I hid from the police, living basically on the street in Sweden. On April 26th this year, they granted me a new trial. So now she's waiting for the response of the new trial. But, as I said, she faces a very difficult situation if she is deported to Russia. So that's why we have to fight against that to happen.
It's a difficult situation. It's a death. Immediately. She is Jewish by last name and by the face. She is Jewish, she is trans woman, it's completely death. After this asylum case, after this Sweden, after only step out from airport and finita la committee.
I don't know if anybody else would like to say something before we take the pictures.
Miss Fish? Would you like to read a little bit of that? Yes?
Where are my glasses?
Honey, you don't need them. You're like...
You can borrow mine if you want it.
Can we see your t-shirt as well?
Yeah, exactly.
Can we see your boobs?
Oh yeah. I haven't got any.
You don't have the big ones, take the small ones.
That's maybe too provocative for everybody. I think it's just important to read it, document it, and then we can upload it. So I think it's also fine that you just
Article 19 and Russian media. In the Convention in relation to the status of refugees, EU regulations and the Swedish Aliens Acts, you are considered a refugee if you have a well-founded fear of persecution related to, as an example, your sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, or other inherent to specific social groups. The persecution may originate from the government of your country of origin, but may also be caused by people or groups in your close environment, and the government of your country of origin cannot or will not protect you from the persecution. The risk of persecution may give you refugee status, regardless if it is the state, your family, or others that threaten you. Your right to freedom of speech and to engage in political movements without fear of persecution, independent of ethnicity, religion, and so on, and also examples of what may give you the right to stay in Sweden. And that's the Swedish Migration Board. And if you read this, it seems completely unjustified that they can drop a case like this, especially in the contemporary political situation and climate in Russia. And it's so evident also even in the arts and in the political scene that everybody who stand out from the norm in Russia have really, really difficult conditions. And this is being an out transgender person and an LGBT activist is, of course, even more visible, and you can't just stay at home 24/7 and hide from the public, living as a so-called gay man in little pockets, in little dark bars or wherever you can go. It's completely ridiculous. So, of course, this is another important case. It's not just Latin America, it's not only the Baltic countries or Africa, it's also Russia and Asia. It's a global fight, and we simply just have to unite all the different LGBT trans projects to put more pressure on all governments internationally.
Yep. Absolutely.
Woo! Someone else want to make a statement? Miss LGBT Denmark?
What should we talk about? What should the topic be? What should we have talked about Laetitia, about Russia?
I think we should more focus on the rights of trans women, because in the end, you know, like they keep making the mistake that transgender women or transgender men are gay people, and they are not, because when you think about it, it's not an illness like they're trying to make it, and they you know, like they start to be respected as women or men or whatever people want to be. So it's not justified. They just classify people as just one box.
I don't know if you also noticed that, but I read like the immigration thing for BBC, and the whole time when they were speaking, they were saying like asylum for gay, bisexual, or trans people, but they didn't write it so like it could include transgender people. They always said like sexual orientation or your sexuality. They never mentioned like your
Gender identity.
gender expression or anything about that.
That's another thing that we try and teach the as we talk about as well, to actually start using the right words.
Exactly.
To really speak out what are the right words and like stop using everything. And I think that could actually be something that's very important. Because if you don't have the understanding, if you don't have the background, if you don't have any reason for knowing what the fuck's going on, then you can't find the words. Because you have to look for them in different things. That's what we should really on tiptoes on using the right words and telling the politicians that things are and to tell each other.
And also, I don't know, I just feel like it's like being trans is a sexuality, which is sexualizing trans people, which has always been, and there's a massive history of this, and it's separating gender identity from sexuality because they're different. And you can be trans and you can be any fucking sexuality you want.
Exactly.
But it's not about being a gay man who wears woman clothes. It's not about being a lesbian who wears male clothes. It's about being a gender identity.
Yeah, I also think like as a community we need to educate ourselves, you know? We need to use the right terminology. We need to try to globalize the thing that trans persons are about gender identity, you know, and I think like it comes within our society too, because if we keep calling ourselves transsexuals, they're always going to think that it's something to do with sex or has something to do with a sexual connotation. So we became monsters, we became freaks because we are just transgender, we are just doing what we feel to do. And I think we need to understand the terminology and to really spread it out in the right way, you know?
Be aware that it's not binary as well.
It's not either or.
No, it's not. It's not a binary system that we're fighting for. It's gender fluidity.
Exactly.
And the ability to include not just man and woman and have space for all kinds of gender identities. And
It's also trans identity, but I also think we today should use the opportunity to ask the question, where are all the other groups in Denmark? Where are all the gay boys and the lesbians and Sabar, the ethnic queers, where are they?
Exactly.
They don't find this an issue for themselves because they themselves have excluded people with trans identity from their communities.
But it says on their manifests and
it's about
statements that they do and these groups
it's
do.
about time to call for some awareness and some solidarity within the community. And also ask the question to them, where are they when things are really, really serious?
Well, I think like the support in the community also is like sometimes we really fight very hard to have the support of the whole LGBT, and we forgot the straight allies, we forgot like feminists, we forgot people who fights against racism and everything, and I think like not happily, we can't really count on each other's fights because we are so consumed in what is happening to each other or like to oneself that we cannot see that if the someone else's rights go forward, our rights also go forward, you know? One step of another person is our step too. So we of course we call to the LGBT groups to join the causes and to care about everybody, but we also should work on having straight allies or having workers' rights allies or having feminist allies, because we cannot forget that their fight is also our fight.
Definitely.
Yes.
And I want to say, Fernanda, that's why Christian and I went to Bornholm this weekend, so we couldn't join the other demonstration. It was Danish Women's Society in the big political meeting with all top MPs, and we made a genderqueer performance and statement that the future of gender debate should include all genders and understand what it means to be cis-normative and also understand fluid gender. And Danish Women's Society are behind it.
Exactly.
It was very successful and it was very well received. So it's you're right, it's a good way to go.
That's a great thing. Yay!
They also said that after we'd finished the performance, they had a lot of new members.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, should we take pictures?
I think we should get somebody on the other side to take